There we go. Testing. Are we good? Okay. It is now 6 p.m. and I'm calling the special meeting of the San Benito County Planning Commission to order. If we could please read the temporary procedures.
The San Benito County Planning Commission welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. When addressing the Commission via Zoom, phone, or in chambers, please state your name and county in which you reside. For the record, please address the Commission as a whole through the chair. If participating via Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the Raise Hand icon. If you are using a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. If you are participating in person at the chambers, please complete a speaker card identifying the item on which you wish to speak and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. Speaker cards are available on the table at the entrance to the chambers.
Thank you. Commissioner Scagliotti, could you please lead us in the pledge? Thank you. If we could have a roll call, please.
District 1, Vincent Ring Hayden.
He's on his way.
Okay. District 2, Richard Way.
Present.
District 3, Robert Scagliotti.
Present.
District 4, Robert Gibson.
Present.
District 5, Celeste Toledo Bocanegra.
Present.
All commissioners are here.
Or on their way. Thank you. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda, which includes the acknowledgement of certificate of posting? Favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Regular agenda 5.1. Receive an informational presentation on the notice of preparation of an EIR for the San Benito Ag Center project.
Hi, good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners. My name is Ariel Goodspeed, and I'll be introducing the San Benito Ag Center, County File PLN 220052. Today, we're going to be, it's a public scoping meeting for the San Benito Ag Center. I want to introduce Abraham Prado, our Director of Planning and Building, myself, again, Ariel Goodspeed, Principal Planner, and also with us tonight is Bill Wiseman with Kimley Horn & Associates. He is working here on behalf of the county on the EIR and project management, and we'll be going over the project overview. And as well as both the understanding and the environmental process. At the end, we'll be taking public comments. And also here in the chambers is the applicant, D. Dhaliwal. Just a couple, before we begin our presentation, a few housekeeping items. If you want to take a moment, to sign in, there's a sign-in sheet. If you want to visit our comment station, you can provide written comments to us. You can also mail or email the comments to the address provided on the comment form, and it'll be at the end of the presentation. The presentation will be uploaded online. And then there is a Spanish translation available if anyone in the audience needs it tonight. Abraham, if you could.
Thank you, Ariel. Si hay alguien en la audiencia o en Zoom que ocupe traducción, estamos dispuestos en traducir también. Si no, la información va a estar en español. Mr. Chair, if there's anybody in the audience or through Zoom, we'd be happy, like Ariel said, but otherwise the information's in Spanish as well, and all of the slides.
Not seeing any requests online or in chambers. We'll just continue on. So, Bill, if you would like to come on up and go over the project overview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ariel. Good evening, Planning Commission, audience, and those online. Bill Wiseman, Kinley Horn and Associates. We've been hired by the county to prepare the EIR, Environmental Impact Report, which is a CEQA document, which I'll get into, and also really act as an extension of staff, so we'll provide them some support in the various staff reports and other components that are needed for the project. Okay, so I'm going to give an overview of the project as of kind of the first half, and then the second half is to talk about the CEQA process and ways the community or the public and agencies can provide comment. We're really at the early stages of the environmental review process, and this sets the stage for primarily tonight and the what's called the NOP, or Notice of Preparation process, of making sure that any issues that are raised by the public or agencies are addressed in the EIR. So it's a way of providing input to make sure that there's a comprehensive review of environmental impacts. So just for context, the project site is essentially located east of Hollister, and it is southwest of the intersection of Highway 21 and SR 29. This is a enlargement then, and what you're seeing here on the screen is the project site, which is outlined in red. And the project area, the parcel, if you will, of the entire site is a little over 23 acres, but the development area, the area that's going to have development on it, is about 16 and a half acres. And what you're looking at here, you would see, so we're just going to call it north for State Route 29. Cyril Road is along the southwestern boundary. Then you can see the on and off ramps, and there's Highway 101 off on the left side, the east side. So just a high-level overview of the project. I mentioned the acreages, and then kind of what are the key components. So there's really three main building structures that are comprised of the project. The first is a convenience store and a food hall. So that's about 16,500 square feet. That'll include convenience retail and include some like fast food restaurant related stuff. It's also got elements for truckers, such as showers and restrooms and components like that. And it's also got some meeting space and some sort of public benefit spaces that are included with that as well. The second part is a truck service building, and I'll show you a map of these, so kind of where they're located and how they fit on the site. And that's really for what I would call light repair, changing tires, fixing minor things related to truck servicing. So we're calling, that's been called, or is called, a truck service building. That's 12,500 square feet. And then kind of a unique component of this is a cold storage building. So this facility, 13,500 square feet, will enable local growers to come to a spot and be able to have basically a transfer for cold storage. So where the larger ag businesses would have that on their own, have them themselves, kind of the more smaller or more independent, if you will, growers have a facility that they can, it would be a shared access type of thing, where they can use a cold storage building, bring in their stuff, and then that gets transferred onto a larger for then maybe regional or national distribution. So a little bit unique component, and that's one of the themes here that's going on is being able to provide services and help with the ag business is really a key component of this project. So total building area is 42,500 square feet, and then associated with that is parking for both trucks and for vehicles, and that's 163 spaces. Another key component of this is looking at, kind of really looking forward in context of renewable energy resources and how to manage and to make the facility much greener. So there's both EV charging and fueling. So on the truck side, there will be 8 renewable diesel fuel positions, if you will, so spots where trucks can come in. And then next to that will be 2 CNG or compressed natural gas positions. And then for automobiles, there'll be 10 fueling stations. And then throughout the site, there'll be charging stations for autos and trucks. And another component of this is for trucks to have a hydrogen fuel facility as well. So it's looking forward for these types of resources of energy for transportation needs. So this is a site plan. I know it's a little bit hard to read. I'm going to give you a nice visual next after this that'll kind of put it all into place, but just so you can see it in plan perspective. So going from the top to the bottom, the area up on the north side, so let me first orient us on the site. So Highway 29 is on the east side or on the right of this drawing. And you can see, do I have a pointer? Or that won't work on screen, really. Maybe you can do it with this radio mouse. I don't think it works to do it on here.
Commissioner Way?
Yeah, if I could interrupt for just a moment, just because I don't want the public to be confused by this. Twice now you've mentioned Highway 29. It is not Route 29, it's Route 129.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I
And the other
appreciate
thing is, you also mentioned that the project site was essentially east of Hollister, and that's incorrect. It's west of
West.
Hollister. Okay,
So
thank
I
you.
was just telling Dee earlier, and I apologize. If my wife asks me to turn left, I turn right. So she has numbers in her head. I can't do that. So I apologize. I flip things around, and it's fairly acute right now.
No worries. I just
Oh.
make sure the public isn't confused.
Absolutely. And if I do it again, please let me know. So I'm working on it, but I have to. My brain has to work before usually the words come out too quick. So thanks for the clarification. Okay, on the east side is Highway 129, and there's an access point that you can see coming in just about in the middle of the site plan there. So that's where trucks would come in. And north of that, kind of in the center, is the cold storage warehouse facility that I mentioned earlier. And then just down from that is the truck fuel canopy. So that'd be for truck facilities, and you can see some queuing just to show what that might look like with the trucks, lining up there. And then to the bottom and right side is the convenience store and food hall. And then further, over to the left, I'm doing it, is the truck service building. And then down at the very bottom is the automobile gasoline canopy, in other words, the fueling station for automobiles. So these next two images provide or conceptual illustrations of what the project would look like. There's a couple things to note here. First off is the architecture. The plan is to really integrate this in, again, following along the lines of an agrarian theme, or agriculture is what's very important for San Benito County. And so you can see in the context of the architecture, it's got sort of design elements that would be reminiscent of barns with cupolas and overhangs, et cetera, and wood siding, et cetera. So it's really trying to integrate in with the vocabulary, if you will, of the county. This is looking at the bottom, sort of coming along the bottom of the screen is Cyril Road. So there would be an access point coming in off of Cyril to provide access in and out, primarily out for trucks and in for automobiles. And there's another location for automobile access as well. This gives us a kind of more of a bird's eye view. So at the top, you'll see with that sort of white building and the columns, that's the cold storage facility. Below that is the truck fueling stations. The convenience is in the kind of middle, lower foreground. The red building is the truck service buildings, and then you'll see the fueling stations for the automobiles down at the bottom there, bottom leftish. Okay. Some other components of the project that aren't necessarily directly physical in nature, but just kind of the character and what the project is trying to achieve. The first is a dedicated area for trucks to park, and these will have plug-in shore power. And what's key for this, and the reason for these photos on the right side, is that currently when trucks come down, particularly during high season, when there's, you've got a seasonal ag production going on and there's a lot of trucks coming in, what they're doing right now is they're basically parking on the sides of the roads, particularly, let's say, out at Taylor Farms, the former Earthbound Farms, or Taylor Farms, yes, Earthbound Farms. A lot of trucks are queuing there, and what they have to do is they have to leave their trucks idling to keep the bays cold, and it's a lot of, they're just sitting there idling, and so there's a lot of CO2 emissions that are coming off the trucks. With this facility, they'll be able to come in, plug in, they'll have electric power, and they can wait until they're called to go over to their appointment, to their facilities. So the project will also include radio and communication abilities, so they can do dispatch and basically be able to coordinate the timing of that. and then the independent on-site cold storage available to local farmers, which I mentioned earlier. So a lot of these are really ways to help reduce trucks sitting and idling on the sides of the roads, and evidently it's an issue for CHP. I don't know the whole details, but Dan and Dee, project manager Dan DeVries, and Dee, the applicant, have said that that's a complaint issue for them. So another way to be able to help with not having trucks sitting on the side of the road. A few other project features. There's the goal is to create what's called a farm worker center to provide on-site health services and other environmental resources. A dedicated farming community room where local growers can gather for meetings free of charge, and a farm stand to showcase local produce grown in San Benito County. The latter being where, you know, particularly vehicles, tourists, people driving down 101 would come in, and there's fresh, you know, grown produce in bins and whatnot that they can be able to purchase. So a great way of communicating, you know, what San Benito County is about. Okay, so that's it on the project. Now I'm going to get into the environmental review process. It's going to get a little technical with some acronyms, so if you have questions, just interrupt me. But I'm going to go through sort of the procedural components of what's going to be required. So given the nature of the project has to be
Me. No.
there'll be an opportunity.
Not to ask questions, though, to correct for the record.
Correct.
They can make statements, but this is not a debate.
That's correct. Yep. And we'll
Okay.
set that, we'll discuss that.
Okay.
So under state law, there's the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, and that's what the there's a process and guidelines for how that gets done, and I'll talk about that more. The San Benito County Resource Management Agency is going to act as the lead agency. In other words, it's their document. They oversee the process and review it and review the EIR and its contents, as well as comments that are received, and respond to those. And the county is requiring an environmental impact report, which is basically the highest level of environmental review. So the purpose of the EIR, primarily it's to provide information to the decision makers and the public regarding the environmental impacts of the project. So it's an informational document. It's not a decision-making document. It informs the project for the decision makers. In this case, the Planning Commission, because it'll come to you for review. Another purpose is to identify ways to mitigate or avoid impacts that are identified, particularly what's called significant impacts. So under CEQA, you have less than significant, significant, and significant unavoidable. So where you have significant impacts, you would incorporate mitigation measures to reduce those or minimize those impacts. And lastly, it's to identify and evaluate alternatives to the proposed project. So that's a required component. So we'll be looking at, in addition to the no action alternative, there may be 2 or 3 additional alternatives that would be looked at. So the first step is really what's happened in the last 2 weeks and coming up to tonight. So the process for doing an EIR begins with what's called a notice of preparation, or an NOP. And that basically lays out in a few pages with some figures, here's what the project's about. That gets distributed out to adjacent property owners, the public at large, posted on the city's or county's website. And then it also goes to what's called responsible agencies or other agencies that may have an interest. As an example, Caltrans, because you've got Highway 101 and SR 129 adjacent to the site. That NOP goes out for 30 days, and it was issued on October 20th. And so the 30-day comment period for that will end on November 30th. In addition to that, as part of this process is the scoping meeting, and that's why we're here tonight. And there was also an opportunity for agency consultation. So the county may decide to reach out, and has indeed through the NOP process, to reach out to agencies, inform them about the project, answer questions if they have. So it's a way of basically taking it a little bit further to make sure that the agencies are aware of what's going on. Here's a diagram that just gives you an overview of the EIR process. So first item is this NOP and the scoping. And then from there, once we've received comments, we understand the full scope of what needs to be analyzed in the EIR. So we prepare what's called an administrative draft EIR. That gets sent to the county. The county staff reviews that in coordination with the consultants. and reviews any technical studies that are associated with preparing the EIR. Once that gets finalized, then there's a public review draft EIR, and that goes out for a 45-day minimum comment period. That goes to the public at large as well as the agencies. From that, comments are received, and then what's done is a final EIR is prepared. So that responds to any comments that have been received from agencies and the public. It also, if there's any edits or changes to the EIR, those are incorporated. That final EIR is circulated for a minimum of 10 days, and then it goes into the public project decision-making process. In this case, it would come back to the Planning Commission for review. So what's in an EIR? There's a number of different components to it. There's a project description that describes what the project's about. Each component or resource, which I'll get into in the next slide, is environmental setting, so kind of what's the existing conditions. Look at the impacts, the significant environmental effects. In some cases, there may be an unavoidable significant adverse impact, and that's a fairly kind of the highest bar is if you cannot find ways to mitigate a project or mitigate an impact, then you have to do what's called a significant unavoidable a definition or criteria being a significant unavoidable adverse effect. And then there's some other components in the EIR that look at growth-inducing impacts and cumulative impacts. And cumulative looks at this project in context to other projects that are going on. You can either look at it from a project list of future projects that are known, or look at it in context to the build-out as assumed in the county's general plan. Mitigation measures are identified for each of the environmental resources where there's significant impacts, and then as I mentioned before, there's an alternatives analysis. So what helps to determine the environmental focus? There's the NOP process that we just talked about, the consultation with agencies, and then the public and other experts, so input that we receive, as well as the scoping meeting tonight. So it's really to go into the EIR. So there are a number of environmental resources, as we call this, that go into an EIR. So these essentially are going to be chapters in the EIR, and I'm not going to read through the list, but you can see there's quite a few of them. Probably some of the key ones is transportation, biological resources, hydrology and water quality. So some of these are specific on-site, and then some are regional in context. So just a few slides here in context to public comments. So obviously, public comments are very much encouraged, and the goal here is to provide written comments on what you'd like to see analyzed. So the important thing here is not whether you agree or disagree with the project and its merits, it's more of what should be analyzed in the EIR to make sure that they're addressed completely. Comments have to be received by 5 o'clock on November 20th, so that's the end of the NOP comment period. And as far as ways to do that, written comments are very much encouraged. And then you'll see the contact details here for Ariel, and she's the point of contact for submitting any of those comments. So that's it in Spanish. I'll just leave it here for a second. Okay, so another thing to note is the input from the public doesn't stop tonight. So this is just really the beginning. So in addition to the NOP scoping process, after the draft public review draft EIR is released, there's a 45-day public comment period on that. And so then any comments received have to get responded to, and they're reviewed and answered in the final EIR. And then obviously at public hearings, there's additional opportunities for the public and agencies for that matter to provide comments. So with that, I'll end my presentation and hand it back to Ariel or the chair.
Do the commissioners have any questions at this time before we go to public comment?
I do. Two questions. What's going to happen with the extra 5 acres, roughly? Is that going to be open space, green space?
Yeah,
You got the whole the whole project's 21.25. Development is 16.43. So that roughly leaves 4.5 acres. What's going to happen with the other 4.5 acres?
Good question. So if the slide comes back up, just for the public. So that northern portion, kind of northern third, is going to be retained in its natural state. So there is some grading that's going to be required because that hillside goes up. So there'll be some grading and retaining features that'll be put on the northern side of that 16.5 acres. But then the acreage above that will stay in its current condition.
Now, how much dirt has to be moved up there? That's pretty much a hill. How much dirt has to move out there to make this flat and doable?
There's a cut and fill, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can't remember the exact number for the export. It might be in the NOP if you happen to have that available. There is a calculation in a preliminary stage that the engineers have done for that, and we could come back to you and get you that number.
And there's no houses projected on this? No housing at all?
No, no housing. It's
Nothing.
completely a commercial
Great.
facility.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Wade, do you have any questions?
Yes. Well, more of an observation, I guess, or maybe it is a question. There's some discrepancy between page 12 of our packet, which talks about what the county anticipates to include in the detailed EIR analysis and what they anticipate excluding, and your list of things that are expected to be evaluated in the EIR. For example, your list says that you anticipate addressing population, housing, and employment, public services, and utilities and service systems, and yet those three things are listed on our packet as things that will not be analyzed in detail.
Yes.
And similarly, on the other side of the coin, septic system is listed as something that would be in the detailed analysis in our packet, and I don't believe that's mentioned in your slide. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on those things.
Absolutely. Yep. So, so in an EIR, you can basically what's called scope out items that for practical, reasonable purposes, you are going to assume are not going to have a significant environmental impact. So those are defined in the NOP process, and then in Chapter 4 of the EIR, there'll be a section called Effects Not Found to Be Significant, and there's a detailed discussion as to why they're taken out. So, for example, population and housing, because there's no housing that's going to be incorporated. Others include agriculture. There's no loss. This is not defined as agricultural land. So those items are basically scoped out. There's about 3 or 4 of those that are not included from the whole category. With respect to the septic, there is a environmental resource chapter related to utilities and service systems, and that gets addressed within there.
Right. There's actually 7 of them that are listed as going to be scoped out in our packet.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and those should be listed, and I'm sorry, I should have brought a copy of the NOP because I could refer to those.
Okay.
Those are identified in a table in there, and
Okay.
those identified those that are expected to be taken out.
Okay.
Now, it's important to understand that that's what the NOP is defining, and the county is saying this is what we think the parameters of the EIR are going to be. If we get comments back, and agencies or otherwise, that says, no, we want you to analyze, those will get put back in and be fully analyzed. But at this stage, we think it's practical to take some of those and discuss them. They get addressed in the EIR, but they don't have a full chapter in and of themselves.
Commissioner Toledo? Commissioner Toledo?
Let's see, I'll begin with the trucks. You said that you will have showers. Would you have an area for truck drivers to have maybe a bed, or I'm not sure how they have it, maybe for sleeping area, or do they sleep in their trucks and park? Are they okay to be there for several days? Because I know you also said that they would have a auto shop, maybe if they have a flat tire and they need to fix it, or other problems with their trucks and they need are there any fines, or they can stay there for a few days to get those fixed, those problems resolved?
Okay, I'll answer this as best I can, and
Okay.
Dee may want to clarify. But there's no housing and no overnight accommodation.
Okay.
I would assume that would be entirely they stay within their trucks.
Sure.
There's showers and laundry facilities and convenience things like of that nature. As far as repairs, the truck service building is really for minimal repairs. If it's a major overhaul or there's something that hydraulic systems or whatever goes on a truck, that facility, that truck service building, would not be used for that type of thing, to my understanding. But Dee, if you want to clarify, okay. So I've got it correct.
Okay, great. I just wanted more clarification on that aspect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ring Hayden?
I think I just wanted to follow up a little bit on her question, which was the trucks, are those guys going to be allowed to spend the night?
My understanding is yes, they can, but they would stay in their cabs. Is that correct? Operational, yes.
Is there a day limit as how long they can stay?
I don't know. I haven't answered that question, so no, there is not a limit. But typically, you know, with a truck driver, they have to take breaks, so that's probably would help to accommodate that. But given the nature of their business, I can't see them staying for
A
4 or 5
vacation.
days camping.
Yeah, you don't make money parked.
Exactly. There's some economics there.
Any other questions from the commission before we go to public comment?
And one thing, I just want to bring up, Ariel's brought this up on the screen here, so if I can go back to my computer and let me make this a little bigger. So per the NOP, those items listed in the left column would be addressed in detail in the EIR as currently scoped, and then those on the right side are ones that are probably not going to cause any significant environmental impacts. So those will be effects not found to be significant. They'll be addressed in the EIR, but in a more abbreviated form.
Okay, because septic is on the left. Okay,
That's
so
correct.
it's separate
So you're
from
right there with
utilities.
the utilities.
Okay.
So we will address the septic within effects not found to be significant, but so it'll be addressed in the IR, but it's not going to be there's not going to be a whole section on utilities as currently scoped. There's a septic report that's coming from San Benito Engineering, and we haven't received that yet, but that'll define whether the soils are appropriate and the site's ability to accommodate that. There is a septic field and a whole septic system as part of the design for the project.
Commissioner Scaliotti?
One question, how many restrooms and showers?
I don't know that detail.
Has that been figured out yet? Do you have an idea how many showers you're gonna put? 2, 3, 5? Okay,
So
and
through the
restrooms are gonna be,
For the record, the answer was 3 to 5. Go ahead, Commissioner Scaliotti. I just wanted to make sure the people at home know what's
Yeah.
being said out in the audience.
how many restrooms? How many at the convenience store or restrooms at the showers? How many restrooms you gonna have
In total?
in total? Do you have an idea yet?
Could you come to the podium, sir?
Good evening. My name's Dee Dollywall. We are figuring about, we'll have 2 restrooms, one for men, one for women. And we figure in the women's probably 8 to 10 stalls, and the men's maybe 5 stalls and 5 urinals.
Just get an idea for the septic.
Of course.
Any other questions of the applicant while he's up here? Commissioner Toledo?
Will the stalls be mixed with the public, maybe like the men's truck drivers and regular citizens from the public be able to use the same stalls, or do you have separate truck driver facilities and?
Well, I anticipate them being the same. The showers will not be near the bathrooms. They'll be a
Okay.
little bit separate, but, you know, as I've raised my kids and I've seen those old school truck stops, I would never take my kids there, so I'm not gonna build something like that. So,
Okay.
be clean and, very well lit and safe, accessible for everybody.
Sure, thank you. They're very minimal female truck drivers, but I was just wondering how you would have that placed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I just remembered, I have a printed set of the plan set. I can pull off the grading if you'd like that number and come back to you.
For the,
I'm sorry, yeah, with the cotton fill.
okay, please.
Okay.
Okay, Ariel, anything before we go to public comment?
I don't have anything to add unless you have any more questions we can
No?
answer.
Okay, public comment, please.
If you wish to speak on this item, please provide a speaker card to the clerk. If you wish to provide a comment via Zoom, please press star 9. There appears to be no public comment.
Has anyone brought cards up? Please bring your cards up. Thank you. Oh, to the podium, please.
It's been a while. Okay. So the questions that I was concerned with was on the letter that we received,
Ariel.
on page 2. Page 2. It says, probably halfway down the page, right above general plan and zoning designations. Short road accessed from Highway 129. Short road is not accessed from Highway 129. Short road is accessed from Cerro Road. It is a private dirt road that provides access into the project site. So my concern is, how is Short Road, which is a private road, going to provide access onto the site? The houses in that area, including myself, are part of Live Oak Water Association, and our well is, seems to be, from what I can tell from the picture, very close to the new septic system, which is a bit of a concern for us. And since Short Road is where most of our residents live, and the water lines were put in many, many years ago, they run along the road. So if you have, I don't know how you guys plan on using Short Road for anything. It's very narrow, it's not in good shape. Okay. Short Road, access road is a private road that provides access over the project site. So that's a bit concerning because the road's really narrow, and if you're, and it seems like that's where the truck access or truck exit is, kind of on, I don't know. Anyway, that was a little confusing and a little concerning. And again, the people, the 11 households that have their water there, that's it for water for us. And we're all, really careful with what we use and the chemicals that we use or don't use, because that's it, that's our water. So if it gets messed up, I just wonder if it gets contaminated, who pays for that? And what do I do with my house at that point? Because it's not gonna be worth anything. And the number 19 septic, like I said, is kind of by our well. Which again, our water lines, most of our residents' water lines run alongside on Short Road. So if you're accessing Short Road for any situation, that's going to be a problem because we already have old lines as it is. That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Staff will be looking into that. Next speaker, please.
If you could please say your name for the record and county in which you reside in.
I'm Vondale Vaughn. I live on School Road. I overlooked the project. If you can hand those out they can see what I'm speaking of. There's 4 packets right there together, just each one. You don't have to. And that one too.
I'll share with Robert if you want to.
So what I'm concerned about is that area of property is the lowest land area in the valley right there. It is a old riverbed, sand riverbed. So putting tanks in for diesel, gasoline, biochemicals, whatever goes into the groundwater. If in case we ever have an earthquake, which I have earthquakes every day registering. So if we have a big one, what's going to happen to the tanks in the ground if they get ruptured? All that situation goes into the ground source, eliminates the water source to the farmers, and eliminates our water, clean water, to our properties. So my concern is you're taking 15 acres there and blacktopping it. All the water runoff goes into the ground. It can be diesel, it can be rubber, it can be asphalt, it could be whatever's running off that asphalt. You're making that a dump zone. And if you bring in 105 trucks, you've established a truck B&B overnight situation going on there. And that's 24/7. That's just not 8 hours a day. That's 24/7 of noise, pollution, people, over people, just too many people in one spot at one time. So we end up having a major disaster area waiting to happen. Any of the buildings that would be built out of wood shouldn't be there. That's chemicals, gas, explosion, a truck catch on fire, anything can happen at a place where you have a possible 105 people staying overnight. And then you have hookups for RVs. I think there's 36 or some count of RV hookups for, and then there's only 63 hookups or 36 for the trucks to stay overnight that has towers. And then the rest of the trucks have to park out in the back with their motors running to stay all night. So you have that pollution going into the air right there and all the noise. This is not a commercial area. This is a residential area on that side of 101. And that doesn't even address the problem with the traffic. As you can see in some of those pictures, the traffic backs up at Sorrel Road.
Thank you, sir.
So that's the situation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bill Batista, School Road. Just crime. Just what are we going to do for law enforcement? We don't have. In our area, we don't have. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because you're bringing in a lot of people. 24 hours, you're bringing in a lot of people. I only have so many bullets. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more speakers in the chambers? The site plan, the artist rendering. Oh, you're talking about the black and white? So it was an artist rendering. Okay.
So
The above view.
So really quick, actually, if we go to the screen, I just want to pull up, before I go to it, I just want to pull up, if you go to our San Benito County website, and under, so I'm just going to start from the beginning. So you go to our main page, and then under departments, if you go to our resource management agency, and under here, I know you have to do a few steps, but I'm happy to, direct people. If you go under planning land use, and under our current major planning projects, and I get our website's not the most user-friendly. There's San Benito Ag Center, and just for the public's awareness, I've been adding all of the current information on here. So different images, project description, size, We did include the scoping meeting information, who to
Could-
contact, the NOPs on here, and application materials
Could
are
you
also.
could you add the aerial rendering, please, to that?
Tonight's PowerPoint presentation will be added.
Okay.
As well. So I just so you know, we'll,
Okay.
but let me go to that,
Okay.
that real quick.
Thank
just,
you,
for the
Ariel,
public.
for the instructive.
Yeah. And we're happy if anyone gives me their contact information, we can email out. Thanks. Okay, so
She's going to it.
is it this one?
Nope.
Nope,
The
okay.
the next one. The next one.
This
There.
one? Okay. So there will be safety lighting, but this is under, we do have a dark skies ordinance rule, so it is in under zone 2 of that, so there is some specific requirements of a certain amount of lighting voltage, downward facing, but there will be security lighting around that area. Yes. With landscaping around. And I can pull up the site plan as well. So probably this last image on the site plan, which is on the website, kind of indicates here, you know, the green landscaping around, and then the black top as well. And then I can just go through. There's actually square footages of how much. So let me just zoom this in really quick. It's going to include 452,818 square feet of asphalt, 8,719 square feet of concrete, and 42,000 square feet of roofs, and then 184 square feet of landscaping. And this is on site plan, page 2, and again, it's on the county page for if you want to come back to it.
Thank you.
To be determined.
It's early on in the process yet.
Yeah.
Okay. If we could get the last speaker card, please. Ms. Morris Lopez.
Yes. Hello, Commissioners. Thank you. My name is Jackie Morris Lopez. I'm a resident of San Juan Bautista. I'm also a city council member, and I'm here to learn and listen. It's very new in the process, but this is in my neck of the woods, so to speak, District 2. It is outside of the city limits. We are currently working on our SOI, Sphere of Influence, and also a larger planning area. I've listened so far to the speakers, and I grew up in San Juan, and I know that area to be primarily rural and residential. The short road is primarily a private road. I'm an advocate for protection and preservation of rural open land, environmental issues. So at this point, I do have a little bit of superficial concerns on the description of the project. You failed to mention that it was X amount of miles from the city of San Juan. That doesn't, I'd like to really interested in how that affects our economy, our traffic. As we know, that is a very traffic impacted area. If you ever have to commute from 101 and jump off and either go, north on Highway 129 or come across the bridge and loop around and go to Gilroy, it is a hub and it is a lot of traffic. So those are already some really early concerns I have, and I'm just here to learn and listen, and I will be back again. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have additional public comment in the chambers? Any via Zoom?
There appears to be no public comment via Zoom.
Okay, public comment is closed. Back to the commission. Do the commissioners have any questions? We'll start at the end with Commissioner Ringhayden.
I was a little bit interested in traffic mitigation. But maybe it's a little bit early to think about that.
Well, this is when we ask them to, if we have specific concerns where they can address those in the EIR. So this is the time.
Okay, that, I'll say I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, traffic is definitely an issue, as well as the environmental issues with septic and their drinking water. Commissioner Scaliotti?
Yeah, I have a concern with the fuel tanks. The fuel tanks should not go below ground. They should be above ground. That's a new state law anyway. State of California law requires that all fuel tanks are above ground now. Nobody puts tanks in the ground anymore. What San Benito County does, I don't know, but the state of California, it's above ground. And number two, all the runoff water should be 100% contained on site. 100% contained on site. We don't want another Santana Ranch. So I want the holding pond to be big enough to hold at least a time and a half of a 100-year flood storm. I mean, I want a big holding pond. Thank you.
And not to percolate, just to evaporate? Is that
Yes.
because of the issues
Yes.
in the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Way?
Well, having heard the comments tonight, you know, I hope to see these issues addressed in the EIR draft and final. I am obviously concerned about the short road business. I hope that's an error, but it'd be interesting to see what staff comes back with on that. Regarding the utilities and service systems, I know that that's not going to have a detailed analysis, but you might need to do one if you're going to have substantial EV charging on site, because that will require the addition of high voltage services and so forth. So I don't know if that's what's meant by utilities and service systems, but if it is, that might be a reason for incorporating that into the EIR. Other than that, I don't think I have any questions per se. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Toledo?
Other than the public's concerns, the speaker concerns, short road, I'm glad that will be addressed. Well, hopefully it is. And I am, I'm in favor of the project. We just have to obviously consider those situations that the public, we take care of those. And thank you for Commissioner Scagliotti and bringing up the runoff water, because that is a concern. And I believe, and thank you for keeping both gas and charging stations and not just eliminating gas. Thank you.
Okay. Any final comments before we thank everyone for their time?
I just want to say that those are my concerns, as well as the water runoff, the lighting. I mean, a minimal lighting. The more lighting, the better, I think, in some ways. Keeps bad, people who want to just hang out, maybe out, and traffic. I just want to be on the record as saying all those things that are concerned.
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
I would echo the residents' concerns. If I were living there, I'd be very concerned about my well and my water lines. So if you could please address those sooner rather than later and inform the residents what is occurring. Ariel, could you? Ann, could you come up, please? If you can answer the question.
I'm pulling up the site plan.
Thank you.
Is this the best one you want?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll work. I'm not sure what paperwork you got, but this project is not using Short Road. It's not. It's not using Short Road. It's quite a bit. If you look at this drawing that's up here, okay, so I think they may have said a short road, but they're not referring to the short road. Yeah, but that's not short. That's not your short road. Yeah, I think they were just saying a short road. So this is Cyril Road. This is Cyril Road. And that's 129. that there's a short road coming off 129 into the project, that
Oh.
entrance. And there's another short road right here. This would also be built as part of the project, but it's quite a ways from your short road.
Not the short road. Thank you for the clarification.
The dirt
Yeah.
road under the site is got that label. That's where I pulled it off of
Oh,
Google.
that's not right.
So we have
It's,
Google make the,
it's way down here.
so Google's made a mistake.
He's on his Google, it's calling that existing driveway that's up here off 129 short road. That's the
Yeah.
truck entrance.
There's two on Google Maps. I pulled the name of the road, which is the dirt path, and it said short road on Google. So we can blame Google for this.
Mm.
That's why you don't listen to Google, you go physically look.
Yep.
Physically go look.
Okay. Thank you all. And that's it for that presentation, I think, unless you need any more direction.
No, I took lots of notes, meetings recorded, and please, again, you have until November 20th to email me comments on the NOP, but I will take any email at any point in time throughout the entire project process. Nope, you don't have to turn on your email. The meeting was recorded. I took notes, so thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and being here and providing those comments tonight. Absolutely. We will have, we can do another meeting during the public draft of the EIR. Staff's happy to add another meeting, and Planning Commission agrees. Okay,
Mhm, a
then
special meeting.
we will have another special meeting during the public draft of the EIR. And again, as soon as we get new or current information, we've been uploading it to the webpage for this specific project so everyone can stay up to date.
And please correct the record regarding the or a short road, please, so that the rest of the members of the public or the people that aren't watching understand.
Yeah, we'll add a better description to
Okay.
that.
Thank you. On to public hearing 6.1. Consider adopting a resolution regarding county planning file PLN 230008, a CUP for a cell tower. Thank you. And Jonathan changed a little bit.
Yes. I am Michael Kelly. Good evening. Michael Kelly, Senior Planner. Jonathan Olivas is ill and is recovering, and I'm filling in for him this evening. And this project is the cell tower that you would have seen on August 16th at 51 Old Ranch Road. And we'll shut the door. Just some basics, and I won't go into great detail because you've heard a lot of this before, but just some basics. 51 Old Ranch Road, 4 miles southeast of downtown Hollister, 5-acre property. This is proposing a wireless telecommunications facility. It's 85 feet in height as of the last design that you saw. There are some more details to give on that, though. Multiple levels. The top levels are for the anchor tenant T-Mobile, and middle levels, 2 of them available for other carriers. And on the lowest level is an addition of the police band repeater for the use by the sheriff's office as requested by the commission before, and as agreed to by the applicant. There's a letter in the staff report that you can see for that. Ground equipment on the lease area, and a variance for the location of this tower, less than 500 feet from a residential area, and that was discussed before, and rationale given at that time for that. And here is the site up close with the you turn off Fairview Road onto Old Ranch Road onto the private driveway. Well, the staff, authorized personnel will turn off there and reach the tower site there at the northwest of the property, which is 50 feet east of the Fairview Road right-of-way. As noted, it's also just a little over a half mile from Highway 25, Airline Highway. And so that's, unless unless you say otherwise, that's about as much review of the prior discussion. Well, except to say that in the August meeting, it was the discussion established the uses consistency with the general plan, consistency with the county zoning ordinance, its compliance with California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, the categorical exemption for this being considered a small facility, the utility extension, and also there being case law that supports using this exemption for this. And also the need case for this was established in the prior meeting as needed for both use permit and the variance findings. And then the applicant's representative, who is here, described the purpose of needing both a stronger signal and more service capacity here. So to respond to the Commission's prior questions, first, here is a map showing wireless facilities in the area. And all of these are at least a mile away, and under the ordinance, the applicant was expected to try to find a spot in an existence already within a mile, and that was not available. And so, as was requested, here is a map with the site on by the Sunny Slope County Water District tanks on the hill near Ridgemark, about a mile away, and then Best Road site, 1.25 miles away, and about 2 miles away, Veterans Memorial Park has a facility, and then over here, I think that's about 4 miles, maybe 3.5 miles away, by the river is another facility there. And for your reference, the one that's at the Sunny Slope District tanks has these two monopines up here, and you can see how that looks. This is viewing from Enterprise Road, looking southward across the Vista de Calabria site, up the hill to the two monopines. And then Best Road site, as viewed here from Airline Highway, looking northeastward near Ridgemark, northeastward toward Best Road here, and the Fox Hill Circle is here, another monopine. That's what you see in the area for the kinds of wireless facilities already present, but over a mile away from this project site. Now, the main question from the prior meeting, of course, is the aesthetic design, the choices of aesthetic design alternatives. And so what you see here are, of course, on the left, the monopine that was presented before. It does not show the sheriff's repeater, but it would be included if approved here. And then a windmill design atop, well, essentially atop the same thing you see in the right design, the lattice tower, which is just a basic, which is the basic design. The windmill version and the other are identical except for the windmill fan itself. And I have multiple visualizations of this, and you can tell me which one or ones are most helpful, and I can go back to that. But side by side, this is the view from Fairview Road at the intersection with Old Ranch Road, looking northeastward. Monopine, windmill version, and the lattice tower version. And the applicant has given us and you a letter that is sitting in front of you that gives gives pros and cons for the different types in the applicant's view. And basically, with the monopine, it says that it conceals the equipment, including the future co-location equipment, but it kind of does have more volume to kind of more bulk. It more or less matches the trees there, except in terms of height, and there are not trees of this kind. So it has its pluses and minuses. The windmill version has it's a little less visual bulk but it is a metal structure that does not conceal the equipment quite so much. There are not windmills in the area, but I guess you can judge how you feel it fits in aesthetically with the site. And then the third option is, well, as I said, basically like the windmill version, but without the windmill feature itself. I'll go to another view once again, the monopine, the windmill, the lattice. From Fairview Road's intersection with Maranatha. And I have some up-close views too, and I can just go back and forth if that's helpful. But the same view with monopine, windmill, and the lattice tower. Once again, at Fairview and Maranatha, or near there, monopine, windmill, and the lattice tower. There's a building that showed up there that is just, you can ignore that. That's just representing the existing building. And from the center of 51 Old Ranch Road, looking northwestward, the monopine, the windmill, and the lattice tower. I might note that if you go up the slope on Old Ranch Road, there is a view of the terrain and the distance to the northwest and the valley, and this would be a new feature, a new structure in that view. That is something just to consider. It's just a few owners there, but it's something to consider. The resolution that you have in your packet has some new conditions compared with what was there before, and the most notable are these that you see here. For the sheriff's repeater, that there be space on the tower for the sheriff's office emergency radio repeaters, and there would not be rent paid for this. They would just have access and use to this space on the tower. And condition 19 is where you would decide what choice of aesthetic option you would like to make on this. There's a blank there that would be filled in with attachment C or D or E. All three are in the resolution, and whichever one is chosen would be filled in there and in two other places in the resolution. So with that considered, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the staff report and the draft resolution, including the findings in the resolution. And as part of that, staff recommends the Planning Commission select its preference of aesthetic option. And then the Commission would adopt a resolution including the findings with the selected tower design indicated to approve this project. If you have questions, I can help with that, or perhaps the applicant representative can help.
Well, let's go to public comment first. Is there any public comment in the chambers?
If you wish to provide speak on this item, please provide a speaker card to the clerk. If you wish to provide a comment via Zoom, please press *9.
Any public comment via Zoom?
There appears to be no public comment via Zoom.
Public comment is closed. Thank you. Back to the commission. Do the commissioners have any questions, concerns, thoughts? Commissioner Toledo.
I appreciate that the sheriff office will have their own connection at no cost and at no cost to the county. So thank you for that. And I personally like the windmill.
And I will just say for the record that we did say a windmill with 4 legs. So that's it. Commissioner Way?
Yeah, well, this isn't quite what I had envisioned when we talked about the windmill option. You know, if everybody else is good with it, I have no objection. It just isn't what I had in mind. So,
Commissioner Scagliotti?
Nor I. That's not what I had in mind either.
That's why we need to update the code and put specifics in there. One of these years we'll get to it. Commissioner Ringhaden.
I would just say I think it's great that the sheriff's office gets a repeater, and I'm in favor, if it matters, of the tree option as aesthetically looking better.
That's why we're back, because we said no monopoles.
Damn it. Darn it.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So we didn't get artistic with it. We did say a windmill or a water tower with 4 legs. So at this point, the applicant complied with our request. I think in the future, if we want to get more detailed, we better get that ordinance and fix it. Just my humble opinion. Is there a motion from the commission? Anybody?
I just want to add that I did receive public input that they didn't want this, monopine or, wire tower. However, I also received public input the importance of having it because of no internet connection. So just with that being said, I want to move forward in approving the monopine with the windmill.
It's not the monopole
Oh,
or
I'm
monopine.
sorry.
It's the windmill with 4 legs.
The
The
windmill.
design. What was the option on that one? If you could remind me for the record.
On the windmill?
Windmill. Was
What-
it CD or you?
Oh, the specific one, I
Yes.
think that is attachment D.
I don't have my glasses, so I'm blind.
Check it here.
The printing is very small, so.
So is there a? When we get that letter, I'll proceed.
The windmill option is attachment D to the Planning
Attachment
Commission
D is in
resolution.
dog. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution with attachment D for the windmill model and the additional condition where the sheriff's office has use for a repeater and what other facilities it needs?
Could I ask a question first?
Absolutely.
Is the applicant still willing to revert to the monopine if the commission decided that that was a better thing based upon the current renderings?
So the 3 options are available.
Are we going to deliberate and go back to the original design?
Oh, I'm sorry to bring that up in a way, but if you look at the ones that I've seen in the past, they'll fool you for a second, and that's kind of what the point is. It doesn't look, in my humble opinion, it looks better than the other 2 options.
Commissioner Scagliotti?
Unfortunately, you're right. There was no thought process put into this at all. They took 4 poles, stuck them straight in the air, and stuck a windmill on top of it. That's all they did. No thought process at all. No imagination to how to put the windmill on the side or something. All they did was take and put, like Commissioner Gibson said, 4 poles on the ground and stuck a windmill on top of it.
Unfortunately, that was the direction that we gave.
Exactly.
Which is why we need to change the ordinance and be more specific.
Are there any microwave issues? I know sometimes these towers, when they're close to people and it doesn't look like it appears to be, but has that been considered?
Microwave issues as opposed to is this a health or safety concern, or is this a sort of a functional,
Do these towers emit any microwaves?
Any emissions that are harmful to the community, you're asking?
Do you have an
Okay.
answer to that?
Can I add to that?
Well, let's get a
Okay,
response
no problem.
before. Sir, if you could please answer that question.
Hi, my name is Bill Lewis, representing the applicant. Thank you, commissioners. There was an EME RF report that was prepared and part of the application, and I did print it out. It was determined that this facility will be compliant within FCC guidelines, and it would reach less than 1% of the maximum allowed by the FCC. And I can pass this around if you want to take a look at it.
Commissioner Ringhaden might not have the copy, so I think we're good. I'm good. I don't need a copy. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have a discussion whether we want to revert to the original monopine design. because none of us are thrilled with the design that was shown due to our lack of creativity when we made the decision, I suppose. Is there a consensus to go back to the monopine, and then we'll try to correct the ordinance going forward, hopefully? Because it is not very pretty.
Don't we have didn't we get images of the options?
Yes,
And
3 options: monopine, water tower, or windmill, and then just the tower with nothing attached.
May I ask our CMAP person to switch back to the images? There
Those
we
are
go.
the.
Yeah, but last meeting, I remember seeing the water tower, so why didn't
right.
those options, why weren't those options now?
Well, as I recall, one of the issues with the water tower is I believe it does not allow. Well, it might allow co-location, except the equipment would be exposed on the outside. Only the initial user would be concealed by the water tower. So that was an argument I recall against
Mhm.
it. I mean, it looks nice. I think so.
Sure.
But it has, but until perhaps there is equipment mounted on the outside. There might be some signal issue when it comes to having the enclosed, the initial equipment enclosed. Then I recall one was either a silo or a smokestack, depending on how I recall that. It was actually meant to be a silo, but it was observed to look like a smokestack. That was considered not desirable. And I don't recall. There might have been a windmill design, and we have before us a windmill design. I don't know that it is. I couldn't compare the two in aesthetic terms, but that's what was presented last time.
We got what we asked for.
But both of the second and third option here, that both incorporate the lattice tower, one with the windmill and one without, have the problem of the exposure of the co-located equipment as it's added. The monopine does not have that as big of a deal, so that's why I'm kind of waffling a little bit and starting to lean back towards the monopine.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Commissioner Ringhayden. Are you in favor of a monopine?
I am. I'd also wonder what the cost difference is.
It's probably less expensive, and it takes up less space, I would assume.
I don't know the exact, but I think it might have to be more.
Huh?
It probably is way more expensive.
Well, but that's not on the county's cost. That's the applicant's cost. Commissioner Toledo, your thoughts? Monopine or
I
air
thought
motor?
we had another option in the last report.
I think we
No.
removed I believe we nixed the water tower because there wasn't you couldn't co-locate without making it glaringly obvious that there were antennas on the outside. So we opted for the air motor without being specific, apparently. So
We have several monopines in the county, so something different would be okay with me, but
well, I think we're past that point. I think
Yeah.
we're at those 3 choices for this evening because we can't keep the
so
applicant.
attachment D, the one I requested to begin with.
D was the air tower.
D is the windmill.
Windmill. That's just a plain tower.
It
That's
almost
just-
looks better than the one with the windmill.
it's-
Yeah, the third one is being referred to as the lattice tower.
yeah, that one. Yeah, that one is almost, unfortunately,
The better of the options. to
until
me.
you add more antennas to it, then it won't necessarily be. When you have 3 more of those hanging off of it, it may not be as aesthetically pleasing.
Are these as durable as the mono tower, this 4 post?
Yes, they are, and they will be engineered and through the building process, make sure that it's compliant with building codes.
Because I don't know, you have to forgive me, is there any history that one is better than the other? Aside from aesthetics?
From a structural standpoint.
Structural standpoint.
Not that I'm aware of. These are designed similar in nature in terms of complying with building standards, so that if there's any issues with earthquake or anything, it will support that. The monopole itself, it has a caisson that goes directly down, which is much more sturdy because it's one caisson. The lattice tower will have 4 caissons, one for each of the legs, and they are smaller. But in terms of supporting it, they're equal.
Okay, yeah, it just seems like that one big caisson seems really strong from what I've seen on the other ones that I've seen.
Yeah.
Not that this is not.
Commissioner Scaliotti, what are your thoughts? I'm trying to get a consensus built, and I think we're floundering. Commissioner Scaliotti, monopine or plain lattice tower, or the lattice tower with the air motor?
Against my better judgment, pine. That's totally
So-
against my better judgment.
Okay.
But I have no choice.
Commissioner Way?
I would go with the monopine at this
Okay.
point.
Commissioner Ringhayden, I think.
Monopine.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution with the monopine design
And
And
the
the-
sheriff's.
and the addition of the condition that the sheriff's office has use of a section?
I'd like to motion that.
Okay, Commissioner Ringhayden made the motion. Is there a second? I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
No.
opposed?
No.
No.
2 opposed. Motion carries 3-2. Thank you. And that item is done. For the future, if we could please look at that ordinance, please. I think it's been over a year that that's been requested. So if we can try to get that done through the board or whatever act of God it'll take, please.
I can answer that. I'm working on I'm getting a quote, and then we'll put a contract to the board. I'm hoping by the end of the year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
Hey, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you all.